Nice.
Shedeur Sanders shocked everyone at Browns camp this week. He wasn't supposed to be the star. He was just the new rookie, third on the depth chart. But then, during practice on Monday, something crazy happened. One perfect throw, one touchdown. And suddenly the whole team, and even the coaches, started looking at him differently. What happened next has everyone talking. Sanders walks onto that field running with the second-team offense, not the first team, not even close to starter consideration according to most people, but then something magical happened during those 11-on-11 drills. Sanders uncorked this absolutely gorgeous touchdown bomb to rookie receiver Gage Larvadane that had the entire practice facility going silent for a hot second. We're talking surgical precision here. Corner Cameron Mitchell was right there in coverage, doing everything right, but it didn't matter one bit. The ball placement was so perfect that only Larvadane could reach it, and he hauled it in for 6 points that nobody saw coming. But here's the crazy part. Sanders did all of this while sitting third on the depth chart behind Joe Flacco and Dillon Gabriel. Kenny Pickett missed Monday's session with a hamstring injury, which pushed Sanders into that third quarterback spot. Third string, limited reps, but maximum impact. And when you break down the film, you can see exactly why people are starting to pay attention. Sanders stepped up in that pocket under pressure like a seasoned veteran, set his feet properly, and delivered what can only be described as a frozen rope that split the defense right down the middle. This wasn't some lucky heave that happened to work out. This was precision quarterbacking from a fifth-round pick who most people thought would be fighting just to make the 53-man roster. But the real tea started spilling when Jeudy opened his mouth after practice. Now, Jeudy's been around long enough to know how to give those perfect diplomatic answers to reporters. When they asked him about the quarterback competition, he gave them exactly what you'd expect. He said he's seen all the guys getting better each day, working toward their goals, doing what they're supposed to do on and off the field. Textbook response, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Jeudy's body language was telling a completely different story. See, the Pro Bowl receiver has been catching passes from all 4 quarterbacks during individual drills throughout camp. That's normal. Everyone gets their work in during those sessions. But when it comes to team situations, when they're running actual plays with the first team, Jeudy has only connected with 3 of those quarterbacks. Sanders is the only quarterback who hasn't thrown to Jeudy during first-team reps. Think about that for a second. But according to people close to the situation, that's about to change real quick. The rep distribution through the first 4 practices tells you everything you need to know about Cleveland's internal evaluation process. Dillon Gabriel has been leading the pack with 12-team series. Joe Flacco has gotten 9. Kenny Pickett managed 7 before that hamstring injury sidelined him. And Sanders? He's been sitting at the bottom with limited opportunities. But here's what makes this whole situation wild. Sanders has been maximizing every single one of those opportunities. We're talking about a guy who went perfect, 4 for 4 on one practice day. Another session had him completing 5 out of 8 passes, while Gabriel went 4 for 8. Flacco managed 4 for 11, and Pickett only connected on 2 out of 6 attempts. And get this, Sanders threw the only touchdown pass that day, despite getting the fewest reps. His completion percentage has been higher than everyone else while getting minimal chances. That's not luck, that's efficiency. But the real game changer here is what Myles Garrett has been doing behind the scenes. After Friday's practice, Sanders stayed on that field working with center Brady Lamb to fix some bad snap exchanges. Pretty standard stuff for a rookie trying to get better. But then Cleveland's $160 million franchise cornerstone walks over and starts helping out. We're talking about Myles Garrett here, the guy who just became the highest-paid non-quarterback in the entire NFL. The same player who demanded trade back in February because Cleveland was a non-contender. The same guy who got his massive extension in March with one crystal-clear message: I expect to get to the Super Bowl. When your franchise defensive star voluntarily spends extra time after practice helping the 5th-round quarterback, that sends shockwaves through the entire organization. Garrett's actions are speaking way louder than any depth chart could. And Garrett hasn't been shy about his feelings either. After throwing out the first pitch at a Texas Rangers game, he told reporters exactly what he thinks about Sanders. Garrett said he thinks everyone was surprised to see Sanders go in the 5th round, but that he's come to camp and OTAs with a great attitude. He called him hardworking, said he has a good head on his shoulders, and praised how he's always positive, always optimistic, always keeps a smile on his face. Then Garrett dropped this gem. You like going to work with people who have that kind of attitude. That's not some throwaway comment from a veteran trying to be nice to the rookie. That's the highest paid defensive player in the league, giving his stamp of approval to a guy most people thought would struggle to make the roster. The organizational attention has been impossible to ignore. GM Andrew Barry and head coach Kevin Stefanski have been spotted closely observing Sanders during his training session reps. This wasn't casual watching either. Both executives were locked in on every move, every throw, every decision Sanders made. Offensive coordinator Tommy Rees has been watching Sanders closely from the sideline during practices too. When you see that level of focus from the coaching staff, you know something's shifting internally. Here's the context that makes all of this even more urgent. Cleveland's offense was absolutely brutal last season. They ranked 30th in scoring at just 17.1 points per game. Meanwhile, their defense posted an elite 82.2 PFF grade, but that offense? A pathetic 62.1 PFF grade, dead last in the entire league. Garrett can't carry that garbage again. He made that clear when he signed that extension. Kenny Pickett's hamstring injury is opening the door wider for Sanders and Gabriel to make their statements, but injuries change everything in this league. Pickett's $2.6 million guaranteed contract provided some job security, but performance trumps economics when playoff hopes are on the line. The timeline creates natural pressure too. Sanders has no better time to prove himself than right now. Cleveland's quarterback uncertainty won't exist in 2026 when elite prospects like Arch Manning enter the draft. If Sanders fails to capitalize on this opportunity, his NFL window could close quickly. The CFL's Toronto team already holds his rights as a fallback option. But let's talk about what the veterans are really seeing. Chad Johnson accidentally spilled some serious tea during an appearance on Nightcap with Shannon Sharpe. He was talking about having conversations with people in Cleveland, and he accidentally dropped Denzel Ward's name before catching himself. Johnson said he talked to Ward and some other people, and they all said the same thing about Sanders. He looked different. There's a difference when that young bull is out there spinning that ball. Johnson affirmed Sanders' distinct football prowess, regardless of team placement, setting him apart from competitors beyond mere media or social media buzz. The Cleveland Browns just pulled off one of the most disrespectful moves in recent NFL history. Shedeur Sanders, the former Colorado quarterback who was once projected as a first- or second-round pick, now sits at the bottom of a four-man quarterback competition before he's even stepped foot in his first training camp. We're talking about a player who entered the draft as one of the most highly regarded quarterback prospects. Some analysts ranked him even higher than Miami's Cam Ward, who went first overall to the Tennessee Titans. Yet, here we are, with Sanders, watching trade rumors swirl around him like vultures circling their prey. The disrespect started on draft day, and it's only getting worse. Let me break down exactly what's happening here and why the Browns' treatment of Sanders is absolutely shocking. Sanders walked into the 2025 NFL Draft with sky-high expectations. He was widely regarded as one of the top two passing prospects alongside Cam Ward. The projection, first or second round, no question. Then the unthinkable happened. Sanders watched as four other quarterbacks got called before him. Ole Miss's Jackson Dart went to the New York Giants at pick 25 after a trade-up move. Louisville's Tyler Show got selected by the Saints in round 2. Alabama's Jalen Milroe went to the Seahawks in round 3. Even Oregon's Dillon Gabriel got picked by the Browns in the 3rd round. Sanders, he fell all the way to the 5th round, pick 144 overall. All 32 NFL teams passed on him for more than 4 rounds. Think about that for a second. There's less space separating Sanders from the last pick in the draft than there is from pick 144 and the first pick of the draft. Throughout this humiliating slide, Sanders kept his composure. He posted on X Saturday morning, "Another day, another opportunity to get a chance to play the game I love. Thank you, God, legendary." After finally getting selected by Cleveland, he simply wrote, "Thank you, God." But the real disrespect was just beginning. The Browns didn't just draft Sanders and give him a fair shot. They created a quarterback battlefield with 4 healthy players fighting for one starting job. Sanders now faces Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dillon Gabriel. The same Dillon Gabriel who got picked 2 rounds ahead of him. With Deshaun Watson expected to miss another season after re-tearing his Achilles, you'd think there might be opportunity. Instead, the Browns have created the most competitive quarterback situation in the NFL. Veterans Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett are considered the most likely starters. Gabriel, as a third-round pick, sits ahead of Sanders in the pecking order. Where does that leave Sanders? Dead last on the depth chart. General Manager Andrew Berry claims he's open to keeping all 4 quarterbacks if they play well enough. But here's the reality. The Browns will likely only keep 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks maximum. Sanders is fighting for his NFL life before he's even put on pads. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, NFL analyst Emmanuel Acho delivered the most brutal assessment possible. He labeled Sanders a camp body. The reality for Shedeur Sanders is that as a 5th-round pick, it rarely matters how talented you are. You may never even get the opportunity to win the starting job. Sometimes as a 5th, 6th, or 7th-round pick, they are already cutting you. You are a camp body. You are there for training camp. A camp body. Let that sink in. This is a player who broke more than 100 program records at Colorado, a player who finished his career with 1,267 completions out of 1,808 attempts for a 70.1% completion rate, 14,353 yards, and 134 touchdowns with only 27 interceptions. But according to Acho, none of that matters because of where he was drafted. The camp body label became the foundation for trade speculation before Sanders even arrived at his first practice. The pressure cooker that is NFL training camp presents Sanders with his biggest challenge yet. Former NFL linebacker Monty Teo explained exactly what Sanders is walking into. Guys during OTAs and minicamp, they're going to go golf after practice. They're going to go play pickleball after practice. They're taking their kids to t-ball practice after OTAs. You're about to go into training camp, and time will tell because in training camp, somebody is trying to take somebody's job, and it gets very, very serious. The speed of the game gets quickened a little bit. It speeds up a little bit. The margin for error gets smaller, T.O. continued. It's going to be something for us to pay really close attention to because this is going to be the next transition for not only Shedeur, but every quarterback in the NFL going into training camp. It's a different speed, there's more on the line, and it's something that we've got to pay attention to. Sanders has to prove himself against 3 other quarterbacks in this high-pressure environment. Rookies report to Browns training camp on July 18th. Veterans report on July 22nd. The first practice available to fans begins on July 25th. The first preseason game is August 8th against the Carolina Panthers. Former NFL offensive lineman Willie Colon acknowledged Sanders' post-draft response, but delivered a harsh reality check. You can't make the club in shorts. It comes down to pads and hard work. As if the situation wasn't degrading enough, trade rumors began circulating before Sanders even stepped foot in training camp. Hunter Cookston of Sporting News reported that Sanders could be traded to the Los Angeles Rams, contingent on Acho's camp body assessment proving accurate. The Rams connection makes sense on paper. Matthew Stafford is 37 years old and played with broken ribs last season. The Rams lack a clear succession plan. Mark Sipos of Dog Pound Daily wrote, Matthew Stafford is still capable, but the Rams don't have a clear succession plan. Sanders could sit behind him, learn the nuances of Sean McVay's system, and grow into a potential starter down the line. His timing-based game and quick release would fit the scheme, and there'd be no pressure to play early. The Rams are Super Bowl contenders with 20-1 odds to win the Lombardi Trophy. They already re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a 1-year deal as Stafford's backup. But who will succeed Stafford long-term? For Sanders, Los Angeles represents everything Cleveland doesn't. The celebrity status works in the City of Angels. The fan base isn't dealing with a championship drought. He could be a high-profile reclamation project without dominating every headline. There's even speculation that Deion Sanders could eventually take over for Lincoln Riley at USC, making Los Angeles the next home of prime time. The Sanders family might find it better suited than Boulder anyway. While trade rumors swirl, Sanders demonstrated exactly what the Browns might be losing. He organized the Garden Valley Fun Fest for residents of the Rainbow Terrace apartments who were displaced after a June 23rd tragedy was devastating. Dozens of families lost their homes. 5 people were injured. Heroic stepfather Cordell Sheffield suffered burns to 90% of his body, saving his stepchildren, and passed away on July 10th. Sanders didn't just write a check, he showed up, he organized food trucks, bounce houses, and activities. He went section to section blowing bubbles with kids, playing cornhole, and taking photos with fans. Sanders said, "It's definitely just get active and actually do it. Sending money and stuff, that's easy. But you have to actually go out there and be in the flesh. I feel like that's more impactful."
When everything transpired, I was out of town. So I was like, nah, the first thing I do when I get back is definitely come to the community. I could tell everybody's vibe out here is down to earth. So a lot of people that didn't want me coming out here doing it, but I don't understand why. You know, God told me come out here, so I'm never going to question his word. It's definitely just get active and actually do it. You know, sending money and stuff, that's easy, but you have to actually go out there and be in the flesh. You know, I feel like that's more impactful.
Attorney Stanley Jackson, who represents Sheffield's family, explained the event's purpose. Every day they're faced with remembering the tragedy they went through. There are some other things that they are dealing with currently, being displaced and living in different places, and they need this to be something that people are coming out to support them. This happened days before Sanders' first training camp. While fighting for his NFL career, he prioritized community service. Yet the Browns are already shopping him around.